Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's joint webinar with Bing Ads and Wishack Media on the subject of boost your agency's revenue in one simple step. Thanks for everybody for showing up today. Thanks for all our partner attendees and all other fellow digital marketers that styled in on this subject. Mauricio, thanks as well for showing up, and super excited about having you here. I know you're going to be speaking tonight at a digital marketing summit. Are you ready for that?
I am, yeah. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful weather here. I will take it any day of the week against a New York winter.
Yeah, and what did you do yesterday? Can you share with the audience a little bit about yesterday's activities?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've actually come down from the high yesterday, literally. So I showed up in the office. Fantastic new office, by the way. I love the new digs, and conducted a full day of trainings with your team. Met with everybody. Had a lot of really good meetings, and then I was pleasantly surprised to see your other office. How did I get there? It's what, 2.5 hours driving. We expedited that process. We took a chopper, and let me tell you, I did a lot of thinking up there at 2,500 feet, and so it's very beautiful to see the country from that space. And it was just an amazing way to kind of just awesome. Check out your locations.
Yeah, that's how we do it here, Wishack. For all partners, when you come visit us, you come in with the chopper. So ping me, and let's arrange our next QBR as such.
Yeah, take them up on that. And, this is not meant for folks who are scared of heights. Trust me.
Yeah. All right, guys. So today the objective with this webinar is to just shine a little bit of light on an often ignored, yet I would say low-hanging revenue and profit opportunity for agency execs such as yourself, which is Bing Ads. And we want to expand a little bit on some processes, different systems, and how to, generally speaking, just position Bing Ads effectively with the objective of expanding your share of wallet per customer. But just to give everybody a little bit of context, for you that are not familiar with myself, I'm head of strategic partnerships here at Wishack. I'm also co-founder, and I had the privilege of being CEO for the company up until 2017. So been wearing a couple of different hats. The last couple of years, I've been 100% dedicated to our white label PPC solution and our partner program. So in total, we work with about 140 partners of all shapes and sizes in about 11 different countries. But the majority is in the United States. And furthermore, I've probably spoken with about 1,000 different agency owners and CEOs and so forth over the last 12 months, just exploring the partnership potential. And what I found interesting is that how few actually use Bing Ads before we engage with them, and how surprised I encountered that some larger established agencies just doesn't leverage your platform, Mauricio. And so when we engage with them, we typically work with our partners and do everything from A to C in a white label format. So just think sales enablement, research, strategy creation, tracking, deployment, monitoring, optimization, the full spiel. But we also focus a lot on account growth, which is, again, the subject for today's webinar. And very proud that we in average, our partners experience a 38% year-over-year same-store growth after transition to us. And what we want to expand upon is a little bit how we do it, so that you can take this approach, these different learnings that we've done over the last 10 years in terms of how to introduce it, how to position it, how to close the opportunities, and share that with you. Share some proposal templates we use for that purpose, specifically highlighting the unique selling proposition and the research and how you should benchmark versus current marketing efforts with Google, and it really works. We typically close these budget increase recommendations of being on at high-end double digits. Hopefully you all can walk away with some value, something that you can apply at your agency tomorrow, and hopefully increase your share wallet and profit. So on that note, I want to mention already now that we're going to be extending 20 free proposal for the first attendees to submit a request. So what that means is that we're going to do the heavy lifting for you. If you have a client that wants to pursue Bing ads, then we will share with you our template. We would invest 4 to 5 hours in terms of researching on search volume, competition, projected performance, elaborate, write sample ads, everything, so you can walk into your next meeting with your client and with a 60 to 70% likelihood, close that deal, increase the budget, and increase your retainer. So submit it. We'll expand further on that subject shortly. And Mauricio, I think you have something to add to that.
Yeah,
right?
no, thank you for teeing it up. One, I appreciate you having me here, and one, with your busy schedule, you've been pounding the pavement for quite some time. So really, really just great to kind of finally sync up with you in a foreign country too, no less. So at your home base, and with that, I know that we've already kind of alluded to some of the content here that we're going to present, and you're showing them how the sausage is made, so to speak, right, and what's made you guys successful. As a partner manager for the Americas, and specifically working with you guys over the last 2 years, I've been able to kind of really see that growth, and you guys really take to our content, our mind share, and really just take us up on the complete support package that we offer as an extension to support you guys to do more. And I think it's great that you're already doing that for your extended partners and agencies that you're working with. So with that said, to your 20, I will go ahead and add a coupon to that. And I'd love to see if we can start kicking these bad boys off at a higher clip. Do we want to know what the dollar amount is, just to make sure that we can really sweeten the pot?
Yeah.
All right. $250.
There we
USD.
go.
So not only are these guys going to be doing the heavy lifting, was it 4 to 5 hours?
Yes.
Putting together this bad boy of a proposal, you're also getting some free Bing dollars. I think that's a huge advantage that some folks are going to have against competition who's not even considering Bing on their radar.
Exactly. No strings attached. We will give you the proposal template. We will make sure that you can close the deal. You can tell your prospect, your client, if they're doing Google, that you'll give them a $250 credit towards Bing ads. So really no reason why not to pursue this revenue opportunity. Good, but let's go into the meat and potatoes, so to speak. Again, I would say when you're looking at tactics for scaling your top and bottom line, again, referencing back to my many conversations with VP of sales and director of business development, CEOs, small business owners, small agency owners, there's very often a strong focus on new client acquisitions, adding more clients to the portfolio. And I think everybody on this webinar can agree with me that it is probably the most challenging aspect in terms of scaling your agency. The marketing efforts needed, the cost per acquisition is fierce at times. You need to invest into the lifetime value of the customer and the revenue before it makes. So you're really investing a lot up front in terms of scaling. And what I typically recommend and how we help our partners is simply just increasing the revenue per client, which is if and again I put these two statistics down there because I think they tell the story better than I, that there's studies that, for instance, if your existing client isn't doing PPC, then by recommending PPC to your existing clients, there's a 3 times increased likelihood for you to win that extra PPC revenue versus looking to acquire a new customer and recommending PPC. So look at your portfolio, look if you can recommend PPC and Bing Ads in the first place. And furthermore, there's also a well-known some well-known research done by Bain and Company and published by Harvard Business Review, basically showing that, you know, acquiring a new customer is in fact between 5 to 25 times more expensive than retaining an existing client. Again, 5 to 25 times more expensive. That, I think that tells the story. And you know, increasing retention rates just by as little as 5% can increase your profits by upwards 95%. So why am I saying all of that? Why am I giving these stats? It's not about customer retention, today's webinar, but I think everybody knows that there's a correlation between you know, growing an account and customer churn, cancellation, in other words. If you are conveying a message to your advertiser, to your client, that you're constantly pursuing new and profitable revenue streams for them, exploring new tactics, looking into new strategies on how you can help them scale the business, there's a good chance they're going to stay with you longer, because they're not in a stagnant, like non-evolving partnership with you. So that's why our recommendation is, again, not only for the sake of scaling your top and bottom line, but also for the sake of retention and increasing your overall profits, is pursuing Bing Ads. So on that note, again, going back to my conversations with agency owners, I think that most already know about Bing Ads. I mean, how many agencies do you speak with, Mauricio, that aren't familiar with your market share and your audiences and the effectiveness?
Well, I would tell you that I've been with Microsoft for about 3.5 years, and it's a constant roadshow. We're obviously gotten better because, one, I think I'm very charming, and I'm also trying to get my face out in terms of the industry as much as possible. So I've certainly tried to do as much as I could for the brand. But again, you know, it is constantly, like any relationship, you have to kind of work at it, and you have to make sure that you're reinforcing those points and you're bringing something new to the table. You mentioned and alluded to it that when you go to these agencies, you know, oftentimes the one that will provide more value over the lifetime of their business is the ones that's currently sitting in their book. And if you're, you know, not bringing anything that new and you're just driving maybe the very basic baseline, you know, these end advertisers tend to speak with their dollars. You know, they walk away, and they will go with someone that can provide slightly different nuance. Maybe, you know, again, what's the agency with a lime twist, right? Yeah. And so, you know, I think one of the things here is we need to make sure that we continue pushing the agencies to stay on top and have a good pulse on, one, the changing landscape, and two, the existing partners. Bing has been growing for 8 years. We're not going anywhere. Microsoft's all in. So for them to kind of still think that this is something that isn't a priority, then maybe we need to, you know, figure out like who's willing to listen to us and really focus on.
No, I hear you loud and clear, Mauricio. And to that point, what I wanted to get at is I think there's consensus. Every time I speak with an agency executive, they know about Bing Ads. They know it's effective, but there's a lot of different reasons why they haven't exploited it yet. So I'm more of a tactical guy, you know, just to put it out there. And what I would like to talk about during this webinar is you're just going into the trenches and talk about the why. Talk about the why you need to incorporate Bing Ads to your client's campaign more frequently. The why of the potential negative impact, you know, that you mentioned in terms of other agencies soliciting your clients and stealing business. So also elaborate on, again, the common objectives and why agencies don't use Bing Ads currently. You know, the explanations, the obstacles. Despite being aware of the Bing Ad stats, the market share 30%, the reputation for lower CPCs typically than Google, why don't they do it? But obviously, you know, going into next step, you can wonder all day about the why. How do you do it, right? I want to talk about you know, how do you identify the right opportunities? That's a question I get very often. You know, what verticals is effective on Bing? Which ones should you be paying attention to? And I know that you're gonna highlight a few of the the slam dunks, so to speak, the ones that are very low hanging fruit in terms of recommending Bing ads. When recommending Bing ads, then again, how do you provide an appropriate budget allocation? Which tools to use and so forth. And a big one as an agency executive is, how do you prevent cannibalization of your client's existing budget when pitching Bing? In other words, I don't want my account manager to be pitching Bing and just shifting 50% of my Google budget that we already won towards Bing. I mean, that's just creating extra workload, not extra revenue or profit. You follow?
Sure.
Which is a typical challenge. So how do you package all that up? How do you set the right expectations when essentially, to some extent, you're experimenting on a new channel with Bing? So again, when should you look to introduce or recommend Bing ads? At which stage of the customer life cycle is it? Many think you need to do it right out the gate. We, for instance, have a process that is we mention it, we plant the seed, we take certain actions that I'm going to be elaborating on, and then we tee it up for a close and a recommendation about 6 to 8 weeks into the relationship, because we've seen that the effectiveness is three times higher. So again, that's the tactical insights that I want to get into. Is like, how do you get success with rolling it out? Another example is, one thing that we experiment a lot with, and what agencies partners tell me, is who should pitch Bing ads. And by that I mean, is it your sales rep? Do you want your sales rep to go in and pitch Bing ads? Is it your account manager? That's the relationship manager speaking with the client. And there's pros and cons to that. In my opinion, obviously there's pros to sales reps being aggressive, they're commission driven. They're going for the kill, right? Sure. But how can they parachute in, so to speak, and just ping Bing 6 to 8 weeks after deploying a relationship? They have limited understanding of the account strategy. Maybe they're not even in tune with the performance, the KPIs established, and all other campaign details. So, how does that stack up versus the account manager? Which, for instance, we've seen that the account manager can have a more consultative sales approach, so to speak, and very often the credibility is already in place, and so the recommendation for increased growth is more perceived as as an area of improvement, so to speak, versus the hard sale. So small details as such, and how do you equip then an account manager if that's the best route? At least I can speak from our team standpoint, and what I see at other agency owners, the account manager is not necessarily a sales rep that knows how to follow up on pipeline and deals and opportunities, right? So what kind of support do you need to equip them with in order to not just recommend effectively, but actually to get the client to accept, sign on the dotted line, and throw you a check for an extra couple of $1,000s the subsequent month? And that's really where I have some intel after looking at 140 partners that again increased with 38% year over year, and Bing is typically the first upsell in that process in terms of what works. As I referenced to early in terms of that free proposal. We're also going to be elaborating on the what. So not just the why, the how, the when, the who, but the what tools, what strategies to put in place, what unique selling propositions should you highlight when crafting a Bing ads proposal. And again, we'll share some of those for free and put 4 or 5 hours of efforts into you getting, so to speak, that formula on how to recommend Bing. And then again, also, what is the ballpark averages from a share wallet standpoint? I know you have some insights for us, Mauricio, on that note, but I often get questioned, like, where should we be at? Is it 50%? Is it 20? Is it 30? So we'll also, share some stats on that subject. Mauricio, you're going to highlight some of, there's the pioneers within this within the Bing ads platform and paid search in terms of who's effectively recommending, and I'm also going to share a little bit of what the percentage is from our partners, so we can see how that stacks up. So that's really, guys, what we have on the agenda today. We really just want to zoom in on the specifics and discuss again, the blueprint, the process that we have. Not that we're the best in the world, by no means. I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but you just see patterns. It's true. I know you're smiling here, but 22,000 accounts after 10 years, you kind of see what works and what doesn't work. That's essentially what we packaged up and what I would like to elaborate a little bit on today. But on that note, you mentioned Bing is fast evolving, and I know there's a ton of stuff going on in your partner technology landscape and so forth. Maybe you can give our audience and attendees today, the state of the union from a Bing Ads standpoint. How does it look? Give us some insights and such.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to give a taste about kind of like what we're doing. I mentioned earlier that Microsoft is all in, and we've been growing for 8 years. And again, the idea that how you're approaching this once you've already landed the sale is fantastic. Again, ease them in. You've already kind of started working with the primary channel, whatever that is. If it's Google, great, God, awesome. You have a very intimate knowledge of their KPIs. You're working with them. 6 weeks later, you start introducing another network, and that's Bing. Again, we have a growing market share. Just to throw a number at, 1 in 3 PC searches in the United States is done on Bing. That's where we dropped the mic. It's been growing, and it's going to continue to grow. We have a fantastic deal that we've done with Verizon Media, and we're going to only continue to see that grow. So that said, that's how we're partnering up with the industries just generally, and these are big names. 2, as Microsoft as a company, we want to be innovators, right? And we want to make sure that we're part of the next wave of technology. And again, we are no longer living in a world where people sit down at their computer and that's the primary point of how they connect to the rest of the world via internet. No way. Not only do people have cell phones now, they have tablets, they have PCs, and they probably have some kind of mobile laptop. And again, on average in the United States, there are 3 devices in every home, so that are connected to the web. So in that sense, that landscape is growing. So you've got to be visible on all those places that are currently active. But what's next? We have the connected TV, we have the connected car, and then we have, as everybody knows it, what I'm showing here on the screen is the connected speaker. I mean, the price point alone on these things, think of the Alexa Dot or, the Harman Kardon with Microsoft Cortana, and even those Google Home devices, the price points are way lower. They're so much cheaper than a smartphone. So I wouldn't be surprised if we had 2 or 3 in our homes in the near future. And, again, just showing to you guys some of the research that we've leveraged to inform how we structure these hardware partners, how we structure these software partners. In 2 years, 75% of households will be using some version of smart speakers. And that, that's, aside from just asking about the weather and maybe to set a reminder, we have a whole generation now that's just engaging with these technologies, in ways that we didn't even know.
I already use voice all the time. I freaking hate
typing. Yeah, it's typing still like 10 years ago or something. It's like, let's give our thumbs a rest, or, I'm an index guy, but, how we're engaging. And I think you guys have also seen this even from your own data, that people are starting to engage with their searches or their primary searches with the appendix of, the prefix of, hey Alexa, or hey Cortana, or hey Google. So again, something to be keep your eye on. And then, again, something about the near future, by the year 2025, right? It doesn't sound like it's too far away, but it also kind of does. The idea of AI and marrying that, sure, that's a buzzword, right? But they say 95% of customers will just be interacting with some kind of powered AI. So, these things, there's a huge adoption. There's a lot of investment, a lot of research just by independent companies, and Microsoft definitely wants to make sure that they are heavily integrated when that lift starts happening. And then, to complement this piece a little bit more and bring it back down to earth about how some folks are engaging with the technology now, search is changing, how we purchase is changing, how we research, the digital disruption piece is something that's been huge with Microsoft in the last 2-3 years. And what we've noticed, at least on the consumer engagement side, currently as it stands, there was a survey that was conducted on some of the heaviest users in the world. Think the United States, Canada, UK, India, Brazil. They interviewed a set of power users in that sense, and this is what we found is that 72% of people are already leveraging this voice technology to help them find the right options. 85 are using this to help them order and repurchase items. That's insane,
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yeah, so it's awesome. It's like we can't be bothered sometimes. I know that it's easier to buy in bulk now. You can just order it, and there's like Amazon has buttons where you can just press it, and then 2 days later it arrives at your doorstep. So all the accessibility points are changing, the different touch points of how you engage with these technologies. And that just alludes straight to my next point is that 67% of people will exchange personal information for automatic reordering. Like, make my life easy, please. Seriously, like I invite you, And so, I think this is something that we want to really be mindful of. And the last piece, again, it just talks about, some point of leveraging a smart speaker. Like, I have one at home, and sometimes it's listening, to my television. It's kind of funny. So you hear it interacting, telling the TV, it quite can't understand what it asked it to do. So, it's beyond just a glorified Spotify machine. It's something that, for me, has become kind of like a stitching component because it connects to my Microsoft device at work, and it also connects to my Cortana app on my Samsung phone. So, we're getting in there, and these are touch points that people are leveraging. It's informing. We're growing in this as a search partner. So, keep an eye out for this stuff because the heavy hitters are out there. We're out there.
That's going to give you a leg up, like over the next 5-10 years from a market share standpoint.
Absolutely. I mean, we've already made some really strong inroads with some big players on the automotive space: Nissan, BMW, Volkswagen. So again, as the car becomes more connected. Cortana will be the primary assistant there, and not only is it going to be the stitching component from your office life, your personal life, but everything in between, what some people would call those micro moments. And in that, as you're driving, it may even, get to a point where it notices that through some crowdsourced information, there is an accident on the road. So here's an alternative route. And it also knows that you really enjoy Starbucks and that you may want to just pull off on the next exit because there's a Starbucks there, and it's already communicated with the bot on the Starbucks side that here's your order. You love your lattes, and it's already kind of waiting for you. You just got to show up, pull the drive-through, pick it up, drive away, go to work. We're not too far from that feature. And so again, Microsoft's doing a lot to grow that presence, and search is actually a really big component of that. Bing is our biggest AI application. Not a lot of people don't know that. So again, it's the biggest space for us to consume consistent, just query, consistent engagement, and it's just not. It's flowing beyond just the traditional browser window now.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. One thing that I get a lot when I reference to Bing and I'm speaking with on that subject, and I think you're going to be covering that over the next couple of slides, but is LinkedIn and your acquisition of LinkedIn and the data of all these professionals, specifically B2B focused agencies. They're very curious about it. We've tested internally and so forth. And have a couple of good case studies that I'm happy to expand on. But obviously, I'd rather hear from the horse's mouth. Give us what does it look like? How can our agency partners leverage this data set? And this is
Gary, thank you for bringing it back down to earth in the current times. Essentially, right? I want to remind folks that again, we're here to talk about tomorrow, right? Driving more phone calls to the plumber, to the HVAC repair person, even to the resort. How do we get more people in Canada searching for our resort here? So here's the thing. Like I said, there's a big investment. We acquired LinkedIn, and for a number of reasons, it just made sense. It's a professional network, highly qualified. People are there with pure intent, and they're self-identifying. And in fact, it's consistently self-identifying in a way where people are constantly updating it. They're fine-tuning it. People are good at SEO even with their own resume now. It's insane. And so
probably the best data you can get.
Yeah.
If you really want to have targeted campaigns towards B2B categories and so forth. I mean, it's,
absolutely. Yeah, and so how that complements and marries into the Bing Ads piece. It's an additional offering now. We're moving into not just the business of keywords. We're also moving into the business of audience purchasing. Yeah. And this is our first big foray into that space.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it in terms of just going after B2B. Yes, absolutely. If it makes sense for your product, you can absolutely layer these audiences, and you can layer it against a couple different parameters. Company size, industry, segment. So it definitely gives you a lot of flexibility there to kind of have a really fine-tuned approach and have a very broad approach, but still be very intentional as to who you're getting in front of.
Yeah.
With that, I mean, you guys have been early adopters, and again, I've just been, my mind has been blown how much this has been a huge component to complement your existing offering. I mean, again,
I mean, again, I can speak very little to it in terms of me not understanding of the technicalities, but we have a few agencies where they have some B2B SMBs, and I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but they're typically budget constrained. They also have problems because they have super niche products. There's limited search volume. You don't want to go too generic because then it's not going to drive any performance. So when incorporating these audience campaigns using that LinkedIn data, some of these B2B verticals, they've just, it's smashing success. And it's everything from like, I've seen medical supplies. We have some industrial e-commerce clients that are killing it with this approach. There's also like some consulting and coaching firms or for instance, like certification training institutes, all these different categories that want to target professionals. They want to make sure that they identify the ideal customer profile, and they're leveraging your network and your reach to have hyper targeted campaigns that can complement to the total sales cycle and the regular outreach and content marketing efforts and everything and anything else that they're doing. It just adds that extra touch point at a very effective scale. So we have some case studies on that subject, and I'm happy to expand on that furthermore. But one thing that I think is on everybody's mind here, Mauricio, I want to talk a little bit about, let's be frank. When I speak with agencies and I mention, what verticals they cater to, the pricing strategy, how significant is PPC as a revenue stream, and I get into what channels do you leverage, what's your share wallet, say on Google versus Facebook versus Bing. Very often it's low end single digits. But at the same time, we have other experiences because again, that blueprint. What do you see? Like you mentioned that we're up there. We're early adopters in much, but other agencies that have incorporated Bing Ads, what share wallet do they have with you guys? What is a good benchmark that agencies could?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great question. Again, with great investment in the product and expanding on like how we're going after the right audiences, it creates it more of an appealing piece of the pie. And I've had a lot of good success with some of our top partners when we do go through these exercises, making sure that they're allocating the right budget. We've seen that anywhere from 30 to 40% has been a really good sweet spot for them to really capture what they need to be. Because again, you've seen it before.
30, and is that against Google only, or?
Yeah. Again, we're the two biggest players in the game right now when it comes to this space. So, we've really challenged a lot of people to be like, well, push the envelope a little bit more. Are the results great? Are they driving the phone calls?
30, 40, is that specific verticals that they focus on? That's on our end. What I've seen is that, our partners typically, it's between 15 to 20%. So despite you saying there's 30% market share, you can't generate the 30, 40% search volume. So we get about 15 to 20%. But again, we do the heavy lifting typically for them and add that extra channel, give them that extra value prop for the clients. And again, growing the accounts by 38%. So I'm curious, like, how can you get to that level?
Yeah, no, Gary, I think that's, there's obviously some lowest hanging fruit that will give you general insights that will show you that there's still room and there's still meat on that bone, you know. And again, you know, we're going to touch into like kind of like what are those slam dunk verticals, but you know, just to kind of allude to it now, you know, we're talking about retail, we're talking about travel, health, we're talking about automotive, you know, just that alone, even if I have a second there, you know, you have way more of a robust experience when you are researching on a browser. You can open multiple tabs, and I will tell you this: that Monday through Thursday, people are likely at work, sitting in front of their computer, in between what they need to be doing. They're probably searching about what kind of make model they saw on the TV yesterday, or what they'd be interested in looking at when they drive into the lot, maybe this Saturday, when they have some time to go check it out. So, you know, when it comes to like, you know, those types of verticals, I gave you that example. You want to be present, and you got to be there during all those different touch points.
Yeah, amen. We see that with automotive specifically. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, and by that I mean, you know, this is great. 30% market share, expand your share wallet, earn extra profits. Your clients want it. You can retain more effectively. Why the hell does many agencies not leverage Bing ads? And I know obviously you're biased on that subject, and you can share your thoughts. I'm just going to tell the truth. And what I hear is very specifically, they say, Gary, the search volume just doesn't make sense. You know, I'm targeting local advertisers, and you know, I can't add it. You know. And if I get an extra budget increase, if my client says, hey, this is going great, I want to spend $500,000 bucks, $1,000 more on my campaigns, they typically go into Google, look at lost impression share, and it's so significant that, you know, they rather just allocate the budget to close the gap there. That doesn't mean extra work, and you know, they just increase traffic volume, conversion volume, and so forth. They also tell me, like, Gary, then, you know, my PPC specialist, you know, they got to manage campaigns now in two, you know, going from the Google AdWords UI into the Bing ad, they're flipping back and forth, and I can't justify that with limited search volume. The reward, the extra revenue, the extra profit just doesn't add up with that extra work, they tell me. And then, you know, for most of our agency partners, budget utilization is a key metric, right? If you have a percentage-based pricing strategy, or at least some sort of correlation, then you want to make sure you're spending the money. And now you're spending a total budget of, say, hypothetically 20K across two platforms with different demand, different search volume, different click-through rates, and so forth. How do you navigate that back and forth? And now you also got to report on several channels. And unless you have some reporting technology and some good integrations, you know, then that just becomes, again, an additional layer of time investment. And then last but not least, they tell me, I know it, Gary, it makes sense, clients want it. In fact, we lost a deal the other day because the client wanted and we didn't have the capabilities or experience, that we didn't want to do it due to prior experiences. So I just don't know, I just don't have a process in place. I don't know how to identify an opportunity, when should I recommend it, how to position it. And essentially, you know, how do I close this Bing ads campaign expansion opportunity? So that's what I hear very often. It's not that people don't understand the potential of Bing ads. I think everybody who's, you know, have seen this pitch deck from you and Bing before, I mean, I think it's compelling arguments. Why would you not tap into 30% market share and all these attractive cost per leads and CPC? I mean, it's a different audience. It's a more affluent demographic. Typically, certain verticals, it's very effective. So again, that's why I want to get down to a tactical level, because I want to answer these questions, these objectives, in terms of what our partners have found effective in terms of introducing Bing ads. What do you hear from your partners? Am I completely off here, or?
Well, Gary, you are completely off with the market share. It's 35% PC market share we have in the United States. And you know what I'm seeing here, and again, I've seen this before. It just sounds like it is a cry for help. I mean, if you look at the theme here, you know, a lot of it is either it's too complex, so you don't have time constraint. knowledge base. It's just maybe someone's already stretched too thin. And then, you know, they do know that there's value there. They just, how do they get started, you know? And I think, again, that's why we do these roadshows. That's why we partner with folks like you that can support these offerings, right? And I mean, again, how you guys have gotten to the point where you guys have been able to kind of create a flow chart and identify, you know, when to like get into the right opportunity for this is something that maybe you can educate the community here.
Yeah. Okay. No.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah. So nothing unique about this. This is simply just putting it into a flow chart in terms of our process, our methodology, so to speak, in terms of, you know, how we typically take on a new client opportunity. So why am I showing you this? You probably have something similar in place internally. I think this is quite outdated, to be frank. Maybe probably 2 years old, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, but listen, the whole point here is, I often, you know, when I speak with the agency and talking with the operations director in terms of recommending Bing ads, you know, sometimes we're talking about, yes, this is great, a fantastic revenue opportunity. I have this client. Let's pitch it together tomorrow. And then I'm like, okay, give me some intel on this client. How are they performing? What's the KPI? Are they attaining the cost per lead? And you know, it's a big question mark. I'm like, how are we going to go in and recommend spending extra money, not understanding the layers of the land, so to speak? So why am I saying this? Really, because it's not as black and white as you may have expected it to be. You need to look at the entire client journey in order to add Bing ads to the equation. So if you look at it from the beginning with the audit process, what we mean by this is, you know, understanding the market, how to craft the strategy, how to deploy it effectively with the highest likelihood of attaining success, and, you know, challenge your clients. What is the freaking cost per lead? If not, call us. We have 22,000 accounts and a vertical taxonomy. You want to know what a personal injury attorney, the cost per lead is in Texas versus New York? We got that answer, at least to some degree. So set those targets, put them with an asterisk in terms of, I'm not sure I can get this for you, but this is the ballpark averages we've done before. Now, what do we have in place? We understand the goals. We know the resources. We're tracking. We're establishing targets. Now we can go to work. Now we can do what we do best: roll up our sleeves, optimize the account, look to allocate resources towards what's driving success, and then packaging it up, reporting on it, reinforcing the value of what we're doing here, and telling them, we're kicking ass, Mr. Client. You know you love us. We want your case study, and we're hitting your desired cost per lead. What's next? I'm not stopping. We want to expand your account. That's when you go into Bing ads. Or as you can see in that flow chart, actually I was standing correct. It's not that outdated. It says Waze ads, if you notice, and YouTube, and local services by Google, and US Hispanic strategies. That's the typical upsell categories that we recommend to our partners, advertisers. But yes, admittedly, Bing ads is the most effective. It's typically again, you know, it's an easy pitch where you say, let's just mirror what's working for you on Google. Let's take that winning approach. Let's select those keywords, which, by the way, very often are lowered on Bing, and give you a bang for the buck. Let's not cannibalize on the budget. Let's not negatively impact your current success with Google. Let's just add an additional budget to explore this additional revenue stream, because it's a different audience. It's 30%, but we're taking the same formula. It's like us having a store in one market and it's working, and you're opening a second store in a different market. There's nothing different about it. You're just expanding, in other words. And I'd say that's the very first thing that you, you know, when you look at your organization, specifically your PPC team and solution, that's essentially what you need to dive into first and foremost, and assess before diving into offering Bing ads. So let's zoom in a tad further. So Mauricio, I'm very curious to get your thoughts on this, but these are our observations, so to speak. If you effectively want to pitch Bing and deploy it and have success with it, there's a couple of components you need to have in place. Obviously, solution. What I mean by that, yes, your PPC specialist that's managing those 40 Google Ads accounts, he needs to understand Bing Ads too, and he needs to probably get certified on that subject. And not that it's rocket science, but you know, you're not going to be wanting to experiment with your client's budget, an extra increase, and put your credibility on the line. So make sure that you're prepared for it. Also, just a hint, you want to maybe look into having the supported tools and technology to effectively adopt Bing Ads as a channel. And by that I mean, for instance, we remember that challenge in terms of budget utilization. Well, internally, for instance, and you know, I have no particular preference. We've tested a lot of tools on over the last 10 years, but right now we use Kensho, the world's largest bid management platform. I'm not here to recommend them. I know financial incentive and such, but it works to manage bid and budget strategies across Google and Bing simultaneously. And then for reporting, again, I don't want my account managers to sit and spend extra time on 20% share wallet for Bing Ads versus a minuscule 6% of a $2,000 budget increase. We want spending 4 hours then on building reports. We use TabClicks, again, like many other reporting platforms in the market, to make sure that we can report cross-channel and do it effectively so advertisers can benchmark performance. So make sure your solution is in place, right, before you start selling it. It goes without saying, but you would be surprised about how many agencies have clients that are leveraging Bing Ads and they don't have all of this in place. And you know, essentially you're setting yourself up for failure. So that's key. Secondly, goals and performance. Now, what I mean by that, again, this may be quite rudimentary, but again, you need to understand your client's objectives, break it down to KPIs, track it, make sure tracking is accurate, look to attain those targets, and then effectively report on your success. That needs to be in place in order for you to go in and say, we need to expand. So those two things are mission critical. And then here's where I shine. This is what I thrive for. It's your pitch process. You know, this is very ignored from many of our partners I've seen. It's like they forget you need to coach your team, your account managers, and your sales rep how to pitch it. They've been pitching Google and SEO and whatever for the last couple of years. What are the unique selling proposition of Bing? How do you recommend it? How do you secure that you prevent that budget cannibalization so everybody wins at the end of the day? And how do you close them? Again, we close 60-70% of our budget increase recommendations, and you really need to go in the trenches and work with your team on that matter. And if you look at the right side of this slide, when talking about that pitch process, so really it starts with the research process. And by that I mean, we use, for instance, and I know I've been on many calls with you, Mauricio, where you have some very compelling data to show for you. Use the Bing Ads intelligence tool very often for that. So we obviously do that internally as well, in terms of, you know, bringing some data to the table in terms of the opportunity. Then you can have all the best data in the world and you know, a good track record and so forth, but if you can't package it up in one of these proposals we're going to be sharing with you after this call, if you don't have some case studies to elaborate on how other advertisers have found success by going from Google to Google Bing setup, if you don't have a return on ad spend calculator to project what that added investment is going to yield, if you don't have all those things in place, well, then again, they're not going to close at 60-70%. And guess what? You're just wasting time. You're spending a lot of time on building proposals and highlighting the opportunity, and it is not giving you any ROI. So critical for success. Again, going back to the coaching process, you need to be, you know, on the phone with your account managers, you know, expressing how much you value this client's relationship, and then you lead the way in terms of how do you go about this process. That's the best way, leading by example and positioning it effectively. And I would say, to my last point, when I say measure, let me just clarify on that. Again, going back to my initial slide, in terms of the effectiveness of selling to existing clients. That there's 3 times the likelihood of the success, or the Bain and Company research that reflects that retaining a customer can be upwards 5 to 25 times. Acquiring a new customer is 5 to 25 times more expensive than retaining a customer. So why do you put in all those efforts to look at pipeline and cost per lead and lead conversion rates and average revenue per new customer, and you're not putting in that same analysis and improvement on your account growth recommendation process? You need to go in there and give it the same love that you give your new client acquisition process. Think of account growth as an equal revenue driver and profit center as your new sales effort. So that's essentially what we see as effective. And could you perhaps shine some light on like, what do you see the other partners that have adopted? What do these guys that have 30? Actually, I'm very curious. What do these guys do that have 30-40% share wallet with Bing?
I mean, you mentioned it. You hit the nail on the head when it comes to just making sure that you keep them as engaged as possible. One, it should go without saying, but it's oftentimes something that's not stressed enough. The solution. How do you consolidate all these different channels, right? Finding the right solution to help you synthesize the proper management. Goals and performance. Again, making sure that all the tracking is there, all the reporting is there, and then it really speaks to one, your performance, and then it supports your own upselling motions. Again, if you go back to your dealer, or if you go back to your plumber, HVAC, and then you compare to them where they were maybe 6 months ago, and you saw the lift, we're able to kind of like equate an anchor point of cost against that, and it's dropping, and their business is growing. I think that's absolutely the narrative that's already there. You just have to kind of shape it for them and put it in front of them. Again, consistently kind of like talking to them and having that relationship. And the pitch process. I think soft skills are one of those things that we don't emphasize as much. And I think that was maybe something of the past where that was primarily left to a salesperson, where they were run and gun. But I think now, in this world that we live in, with the changing agency model, everybody is a salesperson in that sense. Because your customer service person, your strategist, is a representative of your company. And so your credibility is constantly on the line. And if they love you for the touch points, they love you for the data that you provide them, the transparency, and the fact that you're bringing something new to the table to help them grow as a business, you become like a learn-it-all, and you become kind of more receptive as a true partner with this agency. So again, these things are something we're still trying to evangelize to the rest of the community, and that's what I found to be really successible with some of the biggest partners.
You still haven't given me the name of that partner, but we'll cover that later. That's okay. That's okay. We're gonna go up in the helicopter again later today, and
that's where the QBR is gonna. We're doing a business review.
All right, guys. Very quickly, want to elaborate on a specific account, just to back to the slam dunk verticals. I would say, don't necessarily just focus on these major verticals. We have an example here of a client who's been with us for 6 years. I can't show any of our partners' clients due to confidentiality agreements and it being a white label solution. So I chose to pull up one of our accounts from our legacy days as a direct and advertiser focused agency. Again, that's how we hit 22,000 accounts and learned the ropes, made a ton of different mistakes, and essentially you got to a point where we had a more refined process in place on how to recommend Bing ads and now do that for our partners. But long story short, these guys, quite compelling stats when you're looking at it. This was a Google Ads exclusive campaign, and it was doing great. But what happened is, adding Bing to the equation, we basically tripled lead volume. Went from 390 to 1107, as you can see. And CPA was sustained, and so this was just like blowing it out of the park, and you can see brought it all the way up to 40K spend. So a substantial extra, increased retainer. This is several $1,000s we added, so to speak. Client is not even hesitant about paying that because we are essentially the main new sales tactic for them, and it's working really good. So again, it can be a lot of different verticals. Just wanted to highlight that. We have a lot of other case studies that I can elaborate. If you have a specific industry that you cater to and want to understand, what are the success rates, that I can share. I can look into our records and give you some stats on that. But you have much more data than us. Just 22,000 accounts, not nearly as much insights as you have with your entire partner ecosystem. Tell us a little bit about these verticals.
Yeah.
Why should you be monitoring them in terms of recommending Bing ads?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, one, I think it's great that you guys already have kind of like your history and you've already kind of established benchmarks for what people should expect. I think that should just be something we evangelize across the business. So you're doing something amazing there. Just help solidify the stronger pitch. That said, when it comes to kind of like what we're seeing as an overarching kind of vertical space, I know I mentioned as a market share in the United States, we have 35% of the market. But in some cases, on some key verticals, like I said, we over-index there. So, healthcare, for instance, 49%. That's insane. I mean, that's way over kind of like what we are in our market share on average. So,
and what subcategories within healthcare is
obviously people looking for insurance providers, people looking for doctors even, or some kind of specific specialist. Without sounding redundant there, but those are the kind of things when we like to drill down into. The high level here, these are the slam dunks: technology, business, retail, auto, healthcare, travel, real estate, telecom too. So these are things too that the industry monitors us and they keep us honest as well too. So in some quarters we're much higher in some instances because let's just say during the second quarter, people were looking to travel in the United States. Summertime is the best time for them to go and move around. So we see a lot of index, higher index in there.
So basically what you're telling us is that if you have a client and they fall within any of these categories and you're doing Google Ads for them,
you need to be on Bing.
You need to look into Bing. Okay, good.
You need to be on
Bing. If you have clients within any of these categories, if you're wondering how to position Bing, if you're wondering how to build a compelling proposal that converts at 60-70%, and you want to get $200 free credit, reach out again because there's a high likelihood that you can convert it because you got some impressive data to show for your clients, and obviously you're going to be doing them a favor in terms of growing that account. I just want to expand briefly in this, and by the way, guys, we're coming up short on, and I have a brief time for Q&A. So if any questions, feel free to start submitting on everything we spoke of. I just want to mention to this that we see a very diversified category index of verticals that leverage have successful Bing ads. As I mentioned, this prior case study doesn't fall into any of these categories, but still spend 40,000, right? So I would leave you with what I consider three characteristics, three similarities for advertisers that typically have success on Bing. Just to make it super simple. One, look for advertisers who operate in competitive industries. In other words, where the CPC is steep on Google. It's almost like it almost doesn't make sense for most advertisers. Most are intimidated by that approach. Look for that. That's where Bing actually can be compelling and a good alternative, a good source where you should prefer your budget allocation. Secondly, look for your advertisers who have a national focus, or not your small local 5-mile radius geo-targeting campaign. Look for somebody who has a catering to a broader market. That's where I would say Bing, you need to add to the equation as well. And then the last category that I would say is who's your advertiser who's constantly challenging you for growth, new tactics. They get upset if there's nothing in the horizon from a new tactic standpoint, who are very aware of the cost per lead, the cost per acquisition, and wants that improved. Bring Bing ads to the table there, because that you can add some additional value and be proactive in terms of the potential inquiry on this solution. That's the three categories that I see also make sense in addition to these verticals. Yeah. So, guys, that's pretty much all we have for you guys today. I think we have a few minutes for some Q&A in case any questions. One thing I just want to reiterate again is if you found any of these aspects interesting during today's call, if you're wondering how we position Bing Ads and the tools, the process, how we couple it up with what collateral, how we would assess your Google Ads efforts and recommend Bing as using that intelligence, using that approach, and want to have 4 to 5 hour research on a proposal for one of your clients and get the $250 credit from Mauricio, then reach out. Reach out if you have any questions you want us to expand on this subject, which we can cover on during today's Q&A. And if you are interested in growing your portfolio and you want to collaborate on it, obviously happy to entertain that inquiry as well. Reach out to us, and regardless, no strings attached. Let us show you how you can make Bing Ads a profit center for your agency in 2019. So,
Gary,
anything else you want to add to?
No, thank you for the time. Thank you for the space. Thank you for dedicating a whole hour to this great topic. I know I love it, and you got me excited too. I'll hop on the phones with you too, and maybe respond to some emails too.
Yeah, we have a good hit rate on that. All right, thanks again, guys, and I'll be looking for your emails. Truly appreciate your patience today with all this information. We will be making the deck accessible if you reach out to us, and good luck with next steps from the Bing Ad standpoint. We'll be awaiting your questions and inquiries. Have a good one, guys.
Great, thanks.